they're becoming more heavily reliant on the software and its automation, I feel. So the expectation that is the software would produce the final answer for us. So it's not the case. So I think we're sold this, I guess, that the industry is like an AI is it's the finished product, and then Revit is the finished product. It will produce what we put into the model, and it will produce the drawings. It will do everything for us. So and especially like I said, the industry. So we're living in this modern, fast-paced world with like where social media, say like LinkedIn and things like, creates pressure. But what we're looking at it from, it's a speed over quality, because you've seen, I guess, posts about the end product. You've never seen the journey about where it started, the troubleshooting, going through all that, and then creating the documentation. And you just see the finished product, say the model at the end, the visualization, and it looks like that's where, and that's sometimes that's months and months, years, sometimes to create that end product. And we just see it at a snippet and go, that's what we need to create. So, and then I guess the next generation that's coming in the industry, I get sucked into it myself. I look at the final product and go, wow, that's amazing. I should be producing that, but it's not the reality all the time too. So I think having the fundamentals and patience is becoming less common in our industry. So.
Hi, Dane. Welcome to the Digital Construction Podcast. How are you today?
Yeah, good. How are you going?
So today in this episode, we talk with Dane Carroll. He's a senior drafter at BG&E, but also has his own business. He's a director at Sunday Consulting Group, and he's also the co-founder of Sunday House Projects. So today we are going to talk about the art of drafting and the importance of learning your trade, and how relationships and mentorship can help you shape your own career. I'm very excited for this episode, Dane. But before we start, I'd like to ask you, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
Yeah, so it's not really, I guess, it's a bit of almost life advice, really, but it came from my granddad. So it was basically to be a leader, not a follower. And obviously, I've learned a lot along the way from different managers and things like that as well, and had different advice along the way. But it's about basically having your own thoughts and perspectives, to be a leader, not a follower. That's how I look at it. And question situations, what went well, what didn't, reflect on what you've learned from every experience, and don't accept that, this is how we've always done it. So always look for improvements and better ways. So that's how I basically look at my career, but also it sort of bleeds into other parts of my life as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly a good growth mindset to have. Yeah. I like that. Thanks you for sharing that with us. And you worked a lot in the bridging space, and you spent many years working in bridging infrastructure projects. I'm just keen to hear from your point of view, what makes BIM and drafting different in this space if you compare, for example, with buildings or any other vertical projects?
Yeah, so obviously my experience is mostly in bridges. Got a small amount of experience in buildings early in my career, and obviously working alongside a lot of buildings people, but mainly they're dealing with the complex horizontal and vertical geometry. So we're dealing with like a lot more minimal tolerances. Accuracy is a lot more critical from what I've found. Multiple interfaces as well. So you're dealing with civil, road, rail, utilities. So it's a lot broader, I'd feel. And then integrating that geometry with like the constructability side of things as well. Bridges tend to be a lot less forgiving than, say, buildings or vertical projects that I've worked on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I wonder what are the biggest challenges when you work on bridges, because I think probably when you work on buildings, I want to guess many people may say is the coordination part that's challenging, especially in the ceiling space. But what's hard what's the hardest part of working on bridges, I guess?
It's mainly like dealing with the curvatures and the geometry and the crossfalls of bridges. So obviously the programs that we're using with Revit, and mainly that's what we're using in the industry. It started off as the architectural buildings like software. Slowly it's becoming more and more incorporated in terms of like infrastructure. But that we're having to use a lot more, say, Dynamo or stuff that's in automation integration that we can manipulate the geometry. So, and then I guess as well with that, you have the complex sort of geometry you have if there's any design changes. So then when they arise, it's a lot more complicated to change the geometry. So a lot of the information we need to get is up front. So the importance of planning and information early is critical. I'd say a lot more to the bridge space infrastructure. And then also dealing with government, state governments. So you've got your different standards across New South Wales, Vic roads, main roads, WA. So every state has their own presentation styles, terminologies. So dealing with that also is a factor.
Yeah, I'm sure we talk about that, the difference in different geographies later.
Yeah.
One interesting point about the role of the digital engineers, or what they used to be called drafter, we can think about what the right name is. It's the art related to these projects and taking pride of your trade and the work that you do. You often talk about the art of drafting, and I'm just keen to know, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so obviously back in the day, people used to be on the drawing board. That was a bit before, but even my mother-in-law is a building designer, and she started on the drawing board. So obviously the art of drafting is quite, I guess, stemmed from that in terms of the presentation skills and how we interpret the information, either whether or not it's from the engineer or an architect, and then transferring that into like information so that we can build those on drawings to the construction guys. So, but the drafting is basically, it's just a visual communication at a high level, technical level. So it's about understanding why the detail matters. So it's not just the modeling side. Obviously at the moment, we're in this transition of creating models, but we still have documentation, which is still very important to like our clients. The model is obviously important, but for the lower end and medium-sized projects, it's all about documentation. The higher end, obviously, the larger projects, infrastructure projects, buildings and things like that, you're sort of $50 million and above, the model is very important, but majority of the work we're still doing on a day-to-day basis is heavily reliant on documentation. So when I say taking pride, it's about producing that information so that someone on site or in a factory can build from that confidently. And so the craftsmanship of that is like clarity, accuracy, and then the intention that you're putting into that information so that it's clear for those people that are building from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen, like we all have seen these photos even on Google of like this very large room full of very big tables with people drawing by hand, and that was incredible, like the work that they used to do. And
Yeah,
do you think that younger technicians today are missing the sense of craft and pride that came from that traditional drafting now that lots of things have changed?
yeah, I think it's also them coming into the industry of where it's at, in terms of the software or the different selections and what's available. So I guess they're becoming, and then the automation side of it, with even with AI starting to come being incorporated into what we do on a day-to-day task. So they're becoming more heavily reliant on the software and its automation, I feel. So the expectation that is the software would produce the final answer for us. So it's not the case. So I think we're sold this, I guess, that the industry is like, an AI is it's the finished product, and then Revit is the finished product. It will produce what we put into the model, and it will produce the drawings. It will do everything for us. So, and especially like I said, the industry. So we're living in this modern, fast-paced world with like where social media, say like LinkedIn and things like, creates pressure. But what we're looking at it from, it's a speed over quality, because you're seeing, I guess, post about the end product. You're never seeing the journey about where it started, the troubleshooting, going through all that, and then creating the documentation. And you just see the finished product, say the model at the end, the visualization, and it looks like that's where, and sometimes that's months and months, years, sometimes to create that end product. And we just see it at a snippet and go, that's what we need to create. So, and then I guess the next generation that's coming in the industry, I get sucked into it myself. I look at the final product and go, wow, that's amazing. I should be producing that, but it's not the reality all the time too. So I think having the fundamentals and patience is becoming less common. in our industry. So.
And you touch on speed and the need of like delivering a project faster. I guess probably the rise of these software and packages and probably changed the situation a lot for the industry. But how do you, from your point of view, how do you balance speed and efficiency while we try to also maintain quality and attention to the details in the output?
Yeah, so I guess everything sort of ties back into, I guess they call it like an iron triangle. It's the project management. So it's like a triangle of time, cost, and quality. So the key, I guess, with that is understanding, and this comes from experience as well. It's not saying that you can just come straight in out of like TAFE or university. It's you learn as you go. And so it's like a key understanding of the scope, the client requirements and expectations of the clients. So it's about communicating early and being honest with the client about the constraints. So I guess how to finish faster is like we could increase the budget and resources or simplify the scope. But the only thing is that sometimes impacts the quality and the features that you're going to provide with that. So my approach has evolved with my experience. So better judgment of what to adjust and when. So it's like if a client, I guess, needs something done really fast, but unfortunately, and they need it done cheap, it's the quality is going to drop there. So it's about having that communication early, I believe, and really setting out the expectations of the client and what do they actually require. Do they need the model? What needs to be in the model? What data? Is that a requirement for their delivery even? Is it just documentation? So there's a lot of variables there, but it's a saying that you sort of gain experience with and with different clients and things, and having that communication and early on in the project, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And with all of this uncertainty and doubts, and it's very difficult to understand what to do. And I think the role of the mentor, of a good mentor, could be really important in somebody's career. And from your point of view, I know you're passionate about mentorship. I just want to know from your point of view, where do you find like if you want to advise younger DJ engineers, where do you find your key mentors that can influence your career and what can you learn from them?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have good mentors throughout my whole career, I feel. And then but like a key mentor I had early on when I first started. So I was 17, straight out of school, and didn't really even know what drafting was at that time. But I applied for the role, and then I was fortunate enough to get it. But that was a gentleman named Mark Sipple, but he was a product of the generation of coming through the government. And these are the people that were making the standards, setting the standards. So he worked for the Department of Main Roads. It went into RMS. Now it's called Transport for New South Wales. So he was a product of that government system, and basically the people that wrote the standards. So it's not just like what was technically like he taught us as well. It was about the people management and the professionalism. Whereas I was saying I was fresh out of school, entering the workforce. He was a big I guess guidance in how I interpreted the industry and how I needed to work. And then his approach sort of and shaped my foundation in drafting and the standards and my work ethic. So, but from there, I guess it's finding, it doesn't necessarily need to be a leader. It can be a co-worker in terms of who to learn from, but it's about picking people that are got the willingness to teach, and then also being open to having that mentorship, like being able to sit under one. I've found in my career, it's much easier. I've just asked the question about, hey, this is what I want to know. I'd like to learn. I found that, you're really doing well in your career and these kind of things, and just being open with the conversation, saying, is there any time that you can spend with me, or is there something like you can teach me, even if it's after work, or things like this in your career that can really sort of set you on the correct path. And you'll find, I found most people, or to be honest, everyone I've sort of come across has been open about that, especially if you're saying that they're great at their job and stuff. Their willingness is like, you sort of, I guess, boosting their ego a little bit, maybe even, I don't know. But it's everyone in the industry is pretty open about sharing and wanting to like really help the next generation. Like especially if you had a good mentor, like I said, I had a good mentor. And I feel like it's kind of not an obligation, but I want to help the next generation or the next people or anyone, even if they're later in their career. But I have a lot of people that even reach out through LinkedIn, and it could just be a question. They say, hey, I want to get into the industry. Is there any suggestions? And it's like, I don't have to reply back, but I feel like if I was in that seat, I'd want someone to reach back out to me and just give me, it could be anything, saying, hey, this is how I did my things through my career, or a suggestion, hey, pick up the phone and call these people. So it's just, I think if we wanted to see the next generation and hand it over to, like, I'm only 35, but I've been in the industry for 2 decades almost. So it's like, I'm still young in the industry, but I've got a lot of experience. But I feel like it's my obligation to sort of give back to the next generation that's coming through, the younger people that are coming into the industry, if we want to leave it in a better place than what I guess it is now. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's such an important role, the role of the mentors. And how do you approach? You mentioned that you are trying to help younger technicians, but how do you approach mentoring younger technician or team members today? Like, how do you help them?
Yeah, so like I said, I take little bits, obviously, from what I found useful in my during my apprenticeship, and other people that I've worked under, what I found helpful for me. Everyone's different. Obviously, some people get more, I guess, more progress quicker if you put an arm around them, give them more support, or some people would like to work by themselves and are self-driven. So it's all about who you're dealing with as well, in terms of like the people around you. But just having patience, I found with me, having patience and high standards from early on, and saying, this is the expectation that we expect and our clients have got high expectations too. So I'm still protecting them in a way, and I'm not letting them, I'm their safety net in a way. So I'm not going to let them fall, but give them high standards, be patient with them. They're going to make, like these young people, like coming in the industry, you make mistakes. It's all about learning. Someone who gives you responsibility as well, not just takes all the responsibility away from you and just gives you like mundane tasks. You got to give people, young people, make them feel more important. Let them make mistakes, even if it's a big thing, like a major project they can work on and stuff. But as long as you got the safety net there, it's like you can regain it back if there is like a mistake. Everything's fixable. But so. And then someone that can explain the context, not just give you the task. So it's like, oh, go do this. So like I said, my mentor early on, a lot of it was like really explain the fundamentals, why it's done like this, and how it can be done, and can we improve it just because it's been done like that before. Even looking with myself, I had no experience, but he was always giving me opportunities to say, do you think there's a way we can make this better? And there wasn't always, I couldn't like always see what was done, but because I'm still learning, but there was always opportunities there for me to, I guess, improve what had been done before. And then as time, you build self-confidence and you start to get more resilient and stuff. So you start to, I guess, push yourself a bit more into projects in terms of, I think I can fix this. And you just start making suggestions. And it really makes people, I guess, like it almost fast tracks their career in a way without, obviously time is the best way to get experience, but I've worked with people that didn't have such good mentors at the early on, and they were still trying to find their feet after 4 or 5 years, in terms of like building up that resilience and being able to feel like they can come forward with suggestions. But like I said, I was fortunate enough to have someone in my career that allowed me to do that early on, and really showed me what a good mentor was like. So, but I think if you have people in and around you, it's about finding that person. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be your direct lead. It could be a senior. It could be a co-worker that's a similar level that you think they're doing good stuff over there. Can I possibly talk to them and see how I could improve, or could they show me something? So there's always someone that's willing to help. You just got to find the right person.
Yeah, I totally agree on the importance of mentors. Even I've been very, very lucky in my career, having great mentors and learning a lot from them. And one of the things that mentors can help you with is understanding how to become adaptable in your career and adapted to different sectors, for example. And you've worked across many different sectors. And I wonder how this experience has shaped your approach to your work.
Yeah. So like I said, so most of my career, like I've spent a lot of other time in other disciplines and things, but most of my career is built, especially early on in my career, 4 or 5 years, was just solely bridges. During that time, I did have exposure to say parts of civil, like with bridges comes along, like the civil and the rail, the maritime, coastal elements. And then in that apprenticeship stage, also had exposure to the buildings, working like 3 months under a buildings team. Also working under a tunnels team up in Legacy Way up in Brisbane for 6+ months. But that gave me early on with the bridges and working with different disciplines in terms of like the rail and the civil, gave me like a holistic view of the industry and those elements. And I guess what it made it easier to collaborate across different disciplines, foresee coordination issues. And then I guess it sort of helped me understand, I guess, all the parts of the infrastructure and how it connects together.
Yeah, and from your point of view, is it better for a technician to specialize deeply into one specific thing or become more adaptable across these different disciplines?
From my experience, I guess early in your career, most drafting roles are naturally specialized. So it's like when you like say, if I started my career, when I first applied for my role when I was 17, there was 3 roles going at Cardno. So I did my apprenticeship with Cardno. They're now called Stantec. So there was 3 roles. It was a civil drafting role, which was the roads, and then buildings drafting and bridge drafting. I applied for all 3, and then I got a call back or an email back at the time saying I was successful in terms of my to go in for an interview, and that was for the bridge drafting apprenticeship. So I spent 4 years specializing in like structural bridge drafting. So that was doing 4 days on the job, 1 day at TAFE for 4 years. I happened to complete it a little bit earlier and got signed off. And then from there, I was a qualified drafter. Still, Cardno kept me on. But within that, when I was doing the 4 years, like I said before, I spent 3 months with the buildings team. And that was just through opportunities that I came about through internal. So there'd be like downtime in the bridges team. The buildings drafting manager reached out and said, "Hey, have you got anyone up there that would like to come down and help?" And I was always the first one to go, "Yeah, I'll help. I'll put my arm up." And then so I went down there for 3 months, and it was just about taking those opportunities. And the same with the Brisbane, working on Legacy Way. I was on the tunnels team up there, so I had a senior engineer I used to work with. He got seconded up there, and he said he reached back and said to me and said, "Dane, would you like to come up?" And I said yes. So it's like about these opportunities that come as they come. I was always obviously a part of the bridges team, but there's always opportunities in your career where someone will offer you, I guess, a different role in a different discipline, or to help with a different discipline because they've got to get a project out. And I was always the first one to say, yeah, I'd love to help. So I didn't really like sitting still, and I wasn't one to sort of sit on the internet and just scroll through the internet on my day when the days where they were slow. Or I did spend a lot of my time in my apprenticeship scanning and stuff, even because I got employed just as the GFC sort of happened. So there was a quiet period there, and I was just scanning old documents in. But I was always the first one. Like, I'll be happy to scan the documents and create a database of our bridges and things like that. So, and then go to Legacy Way for Brisbane and the buildings team. But along that way, I think that mindset has just opened up a lot more opportunities in my career. And even today, like with this podcast, it's not something I'd normally do. It's like jump on a podcast. It's my first one. But yeah, it was something that I was like, obviously it does make you a bit scared of what could happen. But I feel like the opportunity of missing out and not taking and talking to yourself today, or talking to the community in this industry, and outweighs the opportunity of like not taking that opportunity and missing out on it. So and if you take pride in what you do and you actually you put yourself out there, I feel like you get things back in terms of opportunities, and people can see that from those opportunities I said yes to, he's happy to, like, well, when they move on to another company or whatnot, there's those opportunities later on as well. So
I'm very glad that you accepted to participate to this podcast, because now you're sharing your knowledge and your experience with everybody else. And yeah, thank you for your very first podcast.
That's right.
Part of being adaptable is making sure that you can adapt to this industry that continues to evolve all the time. And I just wonder, how do you stay current? How do you keep yourself updated? Maybe learning, or how do you stay updated in this space?
Yeah, so I've remained obviously a specialist in my original discipline, like bridges. So I still work in that industry today. But like I said before, saying yes to new opportunities, adding more strings to your bow, really. So like I said, I've worked in buildings, tunnels, and I even helped roads guys out when there's been on JVs where they need an extra hand. And I've said yes to the opportunities. So each new experience creates overall value to yourself, and not just and the company that you're working with as well. So which makes you in return more valuable to that company overall in your career. So I think saying yes to those kind of opportunities, and it's also diversifying your skills, makes you more adaptable across the projects and then the industries that you're working in and teams. Taking on new challenges, it builds your self-confidence, like I touched on earlier. Accelerate, and it can accelerate your career growth as well. So you're, like I said, instead of sitting there scrolling through the internet or whatnot, you're taking the next opportunity and going to be helping the buildings team out for the next few months. There's something else that you can bring back to even new things that you're working with new team members. They might do something a bit better than what you currently do in the bridges team, and taking those little bits and pieces of I guess skills that you've learned, and then trying to bring them back into your own career and your own teams and stuff. So diversifying helps, and then it helps you understand the interfaces better. And I guess it makes you a better problem solver overall.
And something I found very inspiring about your career is your decision to go back to formal learning. So me personally, like most people, many other people, I've done it the other way, like the traditional way. I've studied engineering and then I entered the workforce. And I've seen many people that didn't have that opportunity or didn't make that decision at that time, and at some point they said, "Oh, now it's too late. I don't want to go back to formal learning." I just wanted to. So you have decided to go back to university and study digital engineering for infrastructure at University of Technology of Sydney. I'm just keen to hear what motivates you to go back to formal learning when you were already established in the workforce.
I don't know. Sometimes I ask myself that. It gets harder as you get older. It definitely does. But especially because I've got two young children and stuff. So, but there's always, I guess, a curiosity in terms of always wanting to learn. And yeah, so I completed that UTS course back in June. But since then, I've done other things. Like even at the start of the year, I worked with. I was doing a course with the Applied Technology, New South Wales government. So they release courses, even they've got free courses, and UTS have got free courses and things like that. These weren't free courses that I did, but there's just the introduction into like what the courses that they hold. So anything to do around digital engineering and BIM. So I did an advanced BIM course as well with the Institute of Applied Technology, like I said at the start of the year, and that was like parallel while I was doing UTS. So it was quite a lot I took on, but and then even like it's just self-learning as well. Like even in my own time, obviously YouTube now these days, like there's just so much content out there that you can just learn at the click of a finger. And then, yeah, so it's like, it's just about exploring, being curious in your job. Whether or not like that UTS course that I finished opens up new opportunities. It wasn't really about that. I think it was about me trying to, I guess, gain a better understanding of how I can be better at my job that I'm at now. And I guess in return, it does open up new opportunities. It definitely does. But it wasn't like, I wasn't looking for, I guess, a fast response in terms of like, oh, I'm all of a sudden going to change careers. It was just adding like more strings to my bow, I guess, like how I said before, saying yes to opportunities, and then I'm also actively sort of learning, I guess, like I said, like off YouTube and things like that. If something I feel like I don't know, or even off others that I see, oh, their career's gone quite well. So like one of the first things I did when I just recently joined BG&E in the Newcastle team, I've been there for 8 months now, but within the first 2 months, I reached out to the digital engineering lead in Victoria, and just asked about how could the course that I'm doing help me progress my career. And it was just about actively reaching out to people, and he was willing to help and just give me advice. And like I said about before, about having good mentorships, like good mentors and things like that. It's just about reaching out to, and he could have easily said no, or I haven't got time. And he did take time to, I guess, speak to me and give me some career advice and things like that, just to sort of direct me and maybe, and whether or not I decide to go that way, I don't know yet. But it's just about in terms of like full-time DE. But at the moment, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and then just adding more strings to my bow, like I said before, making myself more valuable with myself and to the company I work for. And then also, when I learn things, I like actively teaching others as well. So it's not just like once I've learned something, it's for me. I like actually trying to incorporate, and that also reinforces what you've learned, I guess, in a way. So gives you that confidence that what you have been learning is actually, I guess, soaking in, and then that you do have confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's this mindset that you have, this mindset of lifelong learning that opens, that creates the environment for you to thrive. And it's not just the course you did, it's the mindset you have that then will help you shape your career, I think. And
yeah,
I just wonder if there is anything, any major lessons you have learned recently that you wish you knew 10 years ago. Could be related to anything.
Yeah, so sort of, I guess I'm not like one to look back with regret. I guess you can always look back and go, oh, I wish I knew that 10 years ago, or wish I knew that 15 years ago. I try not to dwell on it too much. Like I wish I knew this earlier, but I think it's just about believing, like embracing, say, mistakes, and rather than avoiding them. So anything that you've learned on projects or something, like how you said, I wish I knew that earlier and stuff. So it's just about taking the responsibility for the mistakes, and it's a major driver of my personal and professional growth. So if you've learned something that you often, I feel like if you've learned something, you often grow more from doing something wrong than, say, doing it right. And that's what I teach to a lot of, like, say, the apprentices, or even other people that I've mentored in my career so far. I sort of reinforce that it's okay to make a mistake, and I almost encourage it sometimes, because then it opens up the opportunity to have conversations about what went wrong and how can we fix it. And like I said, I'm always there to be that safety net, so if it never goes too far. But in terms of explaining to them, and maybe it also opens up the opportunity to say maybe they didn't quite understand everything that you thought they did, because sometimes not everyone speaks up at the start and asks a lot of questions, whereas I'm quite a curious person, so I'll ask a lot of questions, and sometimes it's not even related directly to what we're doing, but it's more just me thinking beyond and saying, okay, or how does this affect this, or what would this do, or it's not even going to really affect my job, like even the engineering side of it. It could be, or why is that bending there, and things like that. And it's just more being curious about what I'm doing. But that's just my mindset. But in terms of like I'm saying, when they make mistakes, it opens up the conversation to have that maybe they didn't understand it. So, and it builds resilience for them, and then it helps them make better decision making in the future. So like my mindset is just own it and learn from it, move forward. So that's my mindset, I guess. I don't really try not to look back too much, but yeah, I enjoy, like, obviously I've gotten to where I am today based on, I guess, what I've done throughout my career. And it's sometimes it's I guess, say, like what else can I learn, like what I'm saying now. So I feel like if I don't know something now, I have the curiosity to say and dive into it and go, how can I learn that now? Not worry about what happened 10 years ago so much.
Yeah, definitely. Don't live with regrets. Always move
Yeah.
forward. You touched before at the beginning of the episodes the point around working in different for different states, different places, and you worked across multiple states. And how different are project standards and delivery expectations around the country?
Yeah, so there's definitely similarities overall in the design and drafting principles across the states: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, WA, South Australia, and things like that. So, but each state uses slightly different terminologies for elements and components. So that's one little thing sometimes. And then each has preferred products or construction methods of, like, say, different types of beams they prefer to use, or railings and things like that on the bridges. So, and I guess the differences also show how the elements are built or sequenced. So delivering requirements vary, especially around information that must be, like, included in the models, how the documentation is presented, slight differences in terms of the annotation, how you call things up, even the leaders and things like that, sections that they require, and the level of detail and just the overall formatting expectations. So every state has its own in-house style of expectations for a project and how it should be packaged and delivered.
And you have worked in different projects and probably with different teams. And one of the challenges that sometimes people face is integrating themselves quickly into a new team or into a new project culture. Is there any lessons that you've learned that can help people navigate this challenge of integrating themselves into a new team or into a new project culture?
Yeah, so a lot of, I guess, my career is, like, how I look at it is, early on, your job is to pretty much adapt and adopt. So it's, if you're moving into a current team, or, like, it could be a JV or something like that, it's just go in, adopt and adapt to how the team currently operates. So that's, like, my first sort of protocol. I don't want to go in, so I want to focus on hitting the ground running straight away, so that I can help the team to deliver, and just learning their existing systems and their workflows. So, and then from there, I guess it's just about taking the time to understand how the team works before just running in and suggesting changes. I think it's not the best way to sort of go about things, but with that, there'll be time to do those things. So it's about respecting the people that are there already and the work they've done. And then as you settle in, you can start to offer improvements and suggestions. And every team or project will present chances to showcase your skills or provide solutions. As issues start to arise, or there's problems that they need someone to rely on, or someone you need to put your hand up for an opportunity, that's where I'd sort of normally say, hey, maybe can I suggest this? Or, yeah, I'd like to take that opportunity. So the key is to building, like, just trust and respect before you just try to influence and change things. And it just takes time. It's not something that you can just, unless you're like, you're bringing a specialist in, like that someone's, even then, like, I'm a specialist, obviously bridge technician within the BIM and drafting space, but I wouldn't run straight into a company and just say I'm changing everything. And I'd say, how do you currently operate? And this is, how do you do things? Why do you find this way is better? And try to understand the business and how it operates. So, and then once that trust is established, your contributions hold more weight and they're better received overall. So.
Yeah, definitely. And another interesting aspect is the nature of the people that sometimes work in the digital engineering teams. They tend to be often introvert individuals that often don't develop relationships that can potentially boost their career. And I just wanted to know, from your point of view, if you think that professional relationship can help shape your career and potentially, like, create new opportunities.
Yeah. So, like, I started when I was 17, like I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, and then I had no experience. So I came fresh out of school. The focus was on me was just fitting into the team and being a team player from the start. So because I couldn't really offer any skills, because I didn't have any skills yet, besides just, I guess, being nice and trying to fit in as a team and a part of the team. So just being easy to get along with and easy to teach was my approach, I guess, when I first started. And I'll still sort of take that approach even now, like when I go into most teams and things like that. So, but like I said, curiosity has driven my development, and learning both internally and externally, like you mentioned before, like with my courses and things like that. That's like the tip of the iceberg of what I've learned inside the job. So, like, even like I said, how my first 4 years was in an apprenticeship. That one day was at TAFE, but a lot of that, like, was just to add on to, like, what I already knew at work. So a lot of it, 95% of is what you're learning is on the job. So, but I've built genuine relationships with my coworkers over the years, just mostly, and then a lot of those relationships, like they continue to today. They're across interstate, overseas, locally, and these long-term connections have sort of been a key growth to my career. So most of my opportunities have come from the people who I know and then who have trusted me. So.
And how do you maintain these relationships? Because one of the challenges is sometimes people move on, they join other companies, or they move from one state to another. How do you keep these relationships?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of it was so even building the relationship just from the start was I guess asking questions, not just about the project, the people that are working on the project, so about the person, just shows interest in who they are. So you spend a lot of your time with these people, like sometimes more so than your own family. So it's like typically most people spend at least eight hours a day with these people. So it's like it's just little things, even in the coffee room or when you come in the morning. How was your weekend? Did you do anything interesting? And then you find most times you have a lot, like there's something in common, even if this person's from a totally different background or culture. There's something that you'll find in common with that person. And that just combines the personal growth, and then if you have a sense of pride in your work, you find that, and like in terms of delivering quality work and your willingness, and if you've got a willingness to learn, these qualities together create a more enjoyable work environment. And I found for me personally, a successful long-term career. So genuine curiosity and a good work ethic normally equals to, like, I guess, good, strong relationships and having a good, strong reputation for your career.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we are close to the end of the episode, but before we finish, I want to talk about the future. And if there is any emerging technology that excites you, and what impact do you think this technology will have on the industry?
It's at the moment, obviously, like AI is massive, but I tend to sort of not look too much into like the automation side of things. It's more for I guess the repetitive tasks for my day-to-day activities. So that might be like managing emails and things like that, or managing some of my workflows, or anything that's sort of like filling out your title blocks and things, automating. I think sometimes we become, like I said earlier on, especially with the people coming in industry, becoming so heavily reliant on automation that you tend to forget about the fundamentals. And unfortunately, your skills are so heavily reliant on automation that you don't have anything to build yourself up. You don't have any foundational, fundamental understanding of how things are to go together. So you still want to build up that cognitive thinking and try to understand how things go together, and how is it built, or how do we do this, and the critical thinking that actually you can build your career on. If we just walk straight into automation, I feel like you just are so heavily reliant on building your career around that. If that was to fall away or be removed, then you've kind of got no ground to stand on. So that kind of side of thing is to build on top of what you already know. It's just to take away the repetitive tasks. So that AI is obviously a massive thing in the industry, gets talked about a lot. But where it's at in terms of, I guess, within our industry, it's more just I feel like it's more just to help with the repetitive tasks. So it frees us up for the more important things, like the critical complex modeling and things like that. So, and the critical issues, to make sure like we're delivering good projects to the people on site. So like that, even the automation, it could just be a simple thing of doing model-based checking and compliance and things like that, to make sure that all your data is in there and it's compliant with the current clients for state government or whatever it is. So it's just freeing up the things that take hours and hours to do it within a few minutes. Whereas the critical things that you can't really replace AI is like the problem solving in terms of like complex geometry. Sometimes you need that personal touch and experience that we're not there yet, unfortunately, like to create a bridge like that. But yeah, it's that's probably something that I'm more focused on at the moment. How can we remove the mundane task?
Yeah, it will take some time before the AI can actually design a bridge that we can drive on.
Yeah. One day.
And if you could give one piece of advice to a young drafter or starting today, what would that be?
Yeah, it's quite simple. I think like someone that's coming into the industry, I wouldn't get too caught up on the softwares and the industry. Like it can become pretty overwhelming. I talk to a lot of young people coming into the industry, and like I said, mentioned before on LinkedIn, you see the end product, but these people sometimes these are like projects that are created over years, or these are people that have got 20, 30 years experience. So, and you don't quite see it. All you're seeing is a snippet of the end result of that 30 years and then the year, like the 30 years experience and all the troubleshooting they've had to go through. And then that project that could have taken a year or whatever. You're seeing the very end product. So it can be quite overwhelming and thinking I've got a long way to go till I get there. But just focus on doing the fundamentals right. So being passionate about your job, making sure I think you enjoy your job is a massive thing because you're going to be doing it for a long time. So that's always been stuck in my head. Make sure you enjoy what you're doing and build genuine relationships. Like I said, you're going to be working with these people every day for a long time, whether or not you're at, it's a small industry. So no, it does feel large, but a lot of people, you might leave a company, you find yourself working with similar people that you worked with before. Like I said, don't get overwhelmed by the industry or the tech. That's always going to be developing. That's always going to be changing. So whether or not you're coming in now or you're in it now, like myself and you, it's always changing. So, and like I said, just master the fundamentals before just trying to take shortcuts. I think getting a good base foundation and building on top of that, take your time. Careers are built slowly. They're not just built off, 1 day or 2 days. It's unfortunately with the social media and stuff, everything feels like it's got to happen now, but it's not the reality. We're all got careers that we've built slowly over time, and experience comes with time. So
yeah, definitely. And thank you very much, Dan, for your time. And we are at the end of the episode. If people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Just LinkedIn. I'm always happy to sort of say hello back, or I'm sort of not too present right now on it. Just I'm having a little bit of a break from social media, but I still do check in on it every couple of days and get back to people if they message me and stuff. So yeah, at the moment, just LinkedIn. Always happy to share my thoughts or respond back to you if you message me.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's been great hearing from you and hearing your story and sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you for joining us on the Digital Construction Podcast.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.